Volume 4, Episode 8, A Much Needed Talk. This is a really good episode. It was the New Year's episode, first episode of the new year for me because I had to watch it on Sunday. But I liked it. I thought it was a good episode. It was a 20-minute episode, which was, of course, pretty cool. And it was an interesting one because with it being 20 minutes, I don't know why I thought there was going to be like some action in it just because it was 20 minutes long. I don't know why I thought that. But it was a slower paced episode. Like, it seemed like, not a lot happened, but a lot was revealed. And that's what I loved about this episode because they did a lot of the simple revelations, which is some of my favorite stuff, where it's like, it's really simple dialogue where it's like, oh yeah, this happened. And then they kind of move past and it's like, that's a big deal. Like, a character will know something that we never knew, and they just say it, and it's like, holy crap, they just revealed a huge thing. I always love that, because it's like, no big deal. They just throw it out there, and sometimes if you aren't even paying attention, you miss that type of stuff. Like in this episode, they revealed that Ozpin was a maiden, and I thought that was really freaking cool, because as Crow is telling his story, he's like, yeah, maidens, when the power transfers to the next person, their souls become combined. And I was like, holy crap, that's basically verbatim what Ozpin said to Oscar in the last episode, where he was like, our souls are now combined. And that blew my mind when he said it. And like I said, Crow was just like, yeah, their souls become combined. And he's just, telling the story. And I was like, that is freaking awesome. So Ozpin was a maiden, which kind of explains why he was able to fight against Cinder. He's still badass, but it wasn't like he's just a normal dude that's epically badass. He was a maiden that was super badass. So that was really awesome. And when he died, I guess he was conscious enough, which is, just shows how amazing Ozpin was. Even though he knew what he was facing, he's like, I can't think of Cinder as I'm fighting her because she's about to, take me down. I have to think of this next person. And for whatever reason, it was Oscar. So of course that brings up a million questions, because of course they're not related. Otherwise, that dialogue would have come up, I would assume. And it just makes me wonder, like, is this like his illegitimate son or something like that? Like, did he have a kid a long time ago and he was never with him? Or, whatever, he became a maiden. Maybe that's why he had to leave, because he's like, if anyone found out, they would target these two, so I have to leave their lives right now before, my son even grows up. So there are a lot of questions to that for me, but Oscar, and that was a big thing too. A lot of people were like, maybe he's a maiden. I think that was like the first thing I said when the season began. I was like, he's probably a maiden. Like, this random kid, there was nothing about him. We didn't even hear his name in the first episode when we saw him. It's like, he's probably the maiden. It just makes a lot of sense. So that is the case. Oscar is a maiden. Ozpin was a maiden, which is really cool. And now it's like, well, like I said, who the heck is Oscar? Like, why did Ozpin think of him, as he was passing away? Or, I guess, almost transferring almost into like a Force Ghost from Star Wars or something. So that I thought was really cool. The other thing we find out in this episode is that Crow reveals his semblance is kind of him having like the ability of being a jinx. Sometimes that can be good if he's fighting against his enemies and it jinxes them, but it can also be really bad if he's with family and friends. So I thought that was very interesting, and a lot of people were questioning now, like, maybe that's kind of why he's so distant, because something happened in the past. Possibly they got, Ruby's mom killed, stuff like that. And it's like, well, this just happened. Like, I basically caused this, so, I'm out of here. Like, it's time for me to, take the F off. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was a nice little reveal that his semblance is like, the ability of being a jinx, pretty much. And then there was something else, and with it being RWBY, I always assume everything means something really big. But when they were all sitting and stuff, and Crow is talking like, yeah, I was basically hiding behind, but, I was watching you guys the whole time. He turns, like, they make a point of having him turn after Jean, like, gets up or something, like, RWBY, he was using you for bait. Crow is talking, he's like, I was watching all of you, and he turns specifically to Jean, and he's like, all of you. And I was like, that means something. I don't know what the heck that means. Maybe there was a little bit more to that training session that we had a couple episodes back when he was training, which even in that episode, myself included, a lot of people were speculating, like, maybe we got to finally see his semblance, and it's the ability to kind of project, kind of force, from his own weapons, because he was kind of swinging the sword, and he was like almost creating like airwaves, against the grass. So maybe there's something extra that we got there that we just haven't seen yet, or is something, I don't know. But he took the time to be like, all of you, and he looks over at Jean. So I'm like, there's something there. He saw him do something. There's something big coming that Crow saw Jean do. So I'm excited for that. Like I said, I could easily be wrong, but typically it's RWBY, so it's like, it's got to mean something. Every little itty bitty tiny thing means something in this show. So I'm excited for whatever the heck that means, but I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, we got to see Blake and Sun in this episode, which was pretty nice. We also got a pretty good moment with Blake and her father, and I like that moment. Of course, it got funny when Sun... That upset me a little bit. I was like, wow, he really did that in this episode. And they gave him the generic line, too, where he was like, oh, this isn't the bathroom. That's what everybody always says. But it always makes me laugh when they do that line, because that's the line everybody uses. Like, oh, this isn't the bathroom? I'll get out of here. So, really great moment that led into a really funny moment. And then, of course, Blake slapping Sun was hilarious as well. But we had a great scene with Blake with her dad, and we find out why she left home. And it was because, or not really why she left home, but why she hadn't seen her parents in such a long time. And it was really interesting because I thought, like, oh, it's been a couple years. It had been like forever, based on the story. If you go from volume 1, where her father left, and then the new person, the new leader came in, she still seemed like she was still very, very young. So this is almost like a 6 or 7 year gap. I was thinking maybe it's been like 3 or 4 years, but the way they explain it in this episode is that her mother and father left, and she stayed, and she hadn't seen them until like this volume. At least that's how it seemed to me. It was like, I thought, oh, it's been a couple years. That's more than a couple. That was way more than like the 2, possibly 3 years I was thinking. It's been a super long time. So I thought that was a great moment where she's like, I called you guys cowards for, leaving the White Fang and stuff like that, which was very interesting that, they chose to leave. I didn't even think about the fact that, he stepped down, and he's still a young guy. It's not like he stepped down because he was older and he thought someone else should take over. He left for a reason, and we still don't technically know what that reason is. So I don't know if it's super relevant or anything like that. Maybe he was just done with it, and he's like, I see that things are either staying the same. Maybe he thought that they should change for, more violent means, but he wasn't the one that wanted to do it, or something like that. It's hard to say. It's all speculation, but I thought that was a very interesting scene. It was like, wow, that was a much longer time span than I was thinking when, it was first revealed, like, oh, her dad was the one that did it. It was like, okay, she still saw them in between that time. It was like, no, she, they left and she stayed, and that was pretty much it, and she hadn't seen them in, like, forever. So that was very interesting. But, of course, the episode ends with, well, it doesn't end there, but that segment ends with Blake and Sun taking off after a White Fang assassin. So that was really cool. I don't know where that's leading, but that was very cool. And so Blake takes off. And it was funny, it was like right after she was like, I'm not here to fight the White Fang. I'm just here to kind of figure myself out, figure everything out. And then it's like, oh, look at that. There's like a ninja out there. So she instantly takes off, and then Sun takes off after her. So I am looking forward to a pretty cool fight scene in the next episode, hopefully. But this is definitely an awesome one. And then we do get our ending segment, which is everybody wakes up. And I want to note this, and it was just a cute little thing, but Rin and Nora have the same color sleeping bags. I just thought that was nice. But everybody wakes up, it's like, alright, it's probably time for us to head on out. So that's my my GoPro going off. It's like, alright, we should probably head out now. And we have our segment where Crow's coughing and stuff. It's like, okay, he's getting sicker. And then they show his hand. I'm like, okay, he's going to be coughing up blood. It wasn't even blood. It was just straight up purple. And I was like, well, that's a horrific sign. That's not just, oh, he's sick and he's coughing up blood. Like, his blood has changed to the color purple. And that's, I don't know what the heck. I mean, it's RWBY, so that might not be as bad as I think. But I'm pretty sure it is. So, of course, he's like, well, that's unfortunate. And he passes out. So, I'm hoping he doesn't die, of course. I was talking to some people in my last review, and I was like, man, I would like to think that they wouldn't do that to us again after such a short amount of time. Like, everything crazy that happened in the last volume, they wouldn't do that again, especially with Crow being introduced in the last volume. I really wouldn't think they'd kill him off so early as well. So I don't know. I'm hoping that he's fine. We of course have to wait and see. But I was like, huh, that's a little worse than I thought. I thought, yeah, he'll do the typical pass out sort of thing, and maybe yeah, he'll cough up blood. But he's coughing up just like purple poison. So I like to think he'll be fine, but it is really hard to say now because of just the way it played out. It was kind of typical, and then it's like, oh, that's not blood. That's his blood is literally changing into just purple stuff. So I don't know what to expect with that. I doubt Raven's gonna give a crap to save her brother. Maybe she will, because she still followed him, and that was a very interesting moment where it's like, you don't have anything else to tell us, and then boom, Raven shows up, and Crow's like, well, not tonight. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, maybe she'll do something to help him out. Maybe she does actually care, or maybe she's following them just to see what happens. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but maybe she'll actually be cool and help him out because they are siblings. So maybe she'll give a crap. I don't know, but definitely a good episode. Some nice revelations in there. Very excited for what we're gonna get next week, which should be a normal episode. I believe it'll be a normal episode, so we just have to see about that. But this is definitely fun. I was glad it was a 20-minute episode. Of course, that's what I've been hoping for forever. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point because I thought we'd make it this volume, but if we ever get to the point where every episode is 20 minutes, that would be amazing. But either way, definitely a great episode, of course. We'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And there are two really big things. Of course, I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with Crow. And on the other side of things, what's about to happen with Blake and Sun? Like, is this I doubt it, but is this going to really lead into the opening segment where Blake ends up fighting against Adam again? I would assume it's not going to happen this fast. That's probably something that'll happen, a little further down the line, which if they're falling in line with the previous volumes, we don't have a lot of episodes left either. Because I was like, this is episode 8. Typically, if I'm remembering right, I can't remember the last volume, but if I remember right, typically it's like we get only like 12 or 13 episodes. So there's still, quite a bit, left for us to get. But it's like we're kind of nearing the end now. And it's like, what are we exactly going to see that was shown in the opening? Because they had that in volume 2 where a lot of stuff was being shown and they didn't end up showing up in that actual volume, like all of Sun's team. They never even showed up in volume 2. Technically they did in that giant wide shot, but they don't really like show up until the last volume. So I don't know if that's going to be the case this time where they show a lot of stuff in the opening but they don't actually end up getting to it. I hope they do, but like I said, I definitely want to know your predictions for where those two storylines are headed. And of course, what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.